What up, everybody? This is your Cosmic Homegirl, and I'm back with another video. I'm doing another celebrity video. This one was requested, but also I just wanted to look into this myself too. I was motivated by going down the rabbit hole after seeing all the hype about the new Selena series on Netflix and trying to see, like, is it worth watching, And then I stumbled upon like videos of her and her husband Chris, and just some excerpts from his book, and I just felt something struck me to look at their synastry, and I was like, wow, I was amazed. If you don't know what synastry is, that is compatibility between two people's astrological charts in astrology. So here I am. I'm gonna do the relationship of Chris and Selena. What I'm gonna do is just look at their love story, mostly based on Chris's book, To Selena with Love. Oh my gosh, if you guys haven't read that book, it's dope. Like, even if you're not a huge Selena fan, if you are into, like, real love stories and want to hear one about true soulmates, definitely read that book. And there is a way to see if people are soulmates in astrology. Now, I use that term not very often, okay? Like, people make soulmates like such a corny thing, talk about soulmates and twin flames, and think that, every fool that they have a crush on is their soulmate or twin flame. And no, that's not true. And yes, there are ways in astrology to see, are people truly soulmates? Are their souls compatible? Do they feel each other on a deep soul level? Do they have a fated meeting? Were they destined to meet in this lifetime for a specific reason? So, yes, that it's true, that does happen. And Selena and Chris were definitely two souls that were destined to meet and experience a very profound love in this lifetime. Like, yo, when I tell you guys, like, the type of love that they have, it is rare to feel that and it be reciprocated and noticed at the same time, as each other. So we're gonna dive into that. I'm gonna look into that. And first I'm going to look at their individual charts, and then I'm going to look at their charts together to see what made them such a powerful, loving couple. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each individual, Selena and Chris, look at their birth charts and tell about their personalities a little bit, and then also tell about their own individual needs in love and styles of loving. And then we'll look and see the two charts together to see how and why they're so compatible. I'm going to try my best, you guys, to not get emotional or to not turn this into just like mainly a Selena reading. I want to read her chart just for her personality and like why she made such an impact on the world, like so badly. But we're going to focus in on the relationship as much as possible. And yes, I am a Selena fan. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the biggest Selena fan in the whole motherfucking world. But yes, I did listen to her music growing up. I was a kid when she passed away, and I was sad. I do have some favorite Selena songs. Yes, I do. Of course, I like the classics that you hear at every party and bar and club, that you can't escape. And the popular songs like Dreaming of You and I Could Fall in Love. Of course, I love those songs. Como la Flor. That song is very sad, but yes, it's a dope song. I love that song too. But I'm going to be a Uranian hipster, and I'm going to say that my favorite Selena songs are I'm Getting Used to You, which is also on the Dreaming of You album. Yo, you guys, if you've not heard that song, I never hear anybody talk about that song. I'm Getting Used to You. That's a dope ass song. It's about fresh new love. Like, oh my God. So yeah, that's a really good song. That's my favorite Selena song. And then the other one is No Debes Jugar. Okay, if you don't understand or speak Spanish, that song is basically her telling some fool, like, look, stop playing with me, man. Okay, do you want me or nah? Like, stop playing games. So yes, I love that song. very much. Okay, so those are my top 2 favorite Selena songs. If you have any Selena favorite songs, then definitely leave them in the comments so we can all, you know, see what everybody's favorites are. But yeah, so Selena, her chart. Okay, now you guys know I like to verify birth times as best as I can, because if you don't know astrology like on a deep level, I will try to explain everything in layman's terms as best as I can, but you know, I'm gonna try not to make this video too long because your girl can talk. Okay, I can talk a lot, but having the birth time of someone tells very extensive details about their life events, the timing of things happening in their lives, their personality, everything. Okay, it adds a whole new layer to astrology. So I did get this birth time from astrotheme.com, and you guys know how I feel about astrotheme. Like I'll go and I'm a little sketchy about some of their birth times, but some of them, if I really feel that, you know, how the chart is set up actually matches the person's personality and life events, I'm like, okay, we'll roll with this. And I do feel like Selena is an Aquarius rising. Not just I feel like it, but like just looking at the timeline of life events, her personality and everything. Yes, Aquarius rising most def matches up for her. So they said they got her birth time from this other Selena book that was written by some other author, Joe something or another. And I downloaded that book too, and I skimmed through it. And so far, I haven't seen her birth time. So I don't know where they got it, but she's most def Aquarius rising. Aquarius is a sign that's very innovative. It rules the future, you know, being futuristic, being someone who everybody that people say, oh, they were ahead of their time. They usually have Aquarius type of energy within them somewhere. Okay, like you know, people who pushed boundaries with stuff and made new styles and were very forward thinking, and they broke down barriers. They don't like gender roles. They'll bend gender roles and stuff like that. Usually they're Aquarian. And Selena is often compared to Madonna and to Aaliyah, okay? And I know people get their little panties in a bunch when they're like, she's nothing like Madonna. Madonna's the devil. And Selena's an angel. Okay, now listen. Madonna has said herself that she herself is an Aquarius rising. There's some debate about that online, but Madonna has said it herself. She's an Aquarius rising. Madonna, you know, she came out the gate like rocking some gear that a lot of people hadn't seen. She had her own unique style for her time, right? And especially when she came out wearing like bustiers and stuff, that was very pushing boundaries. Now, when you're an Aquarius rising, usually your midheaven, or MC as it's marked, this is the sign that rules your public image. So when you are famous, people mostly see you as your midheaven sign, okay? And so people see Madonna as a Scorpio. Scorpios will break rules. They will do things that people find to be taboo in nature, and wearing bustiers, wearing undergarments as outerwear, that's Scorpionic all day, okay? Scorpio rules lingerie. So Madonna did that, and also Selena did that too. Her wearing her bustiers or busti caca, like in the movie they said that her dad said that because he wasn't feeling his baby girl out there in her drawers, you know, for the world to see. But anyway, so Selena has a midheaven in Scorpio as well, you know, rocking black, wearing all black, looking good. And it was kind of risky to wear the bustiers, you know. Aaliyah was also an Aquarius rising, but I think her midheaven is in Sagittarius. Both Selena and Aaliyah have Neptune up here in their 10th house of career. And Neptune is a planet that rules many things. It does rule the arts, and it also rules the spirit world and like the angelic realm. So this is why people see both Selena and Aaliyah as being angels, you know, like angelic, and they are glamorous. They're always looked up to as like these glamorous figures, even after they've passed on, even after they have become, you know, returned back to the spirit world. Their spirits, Neptune, remain famous, okay, which is the 10th house, the MC, okay? So that's why they're compared to each other. You know, Aaliyah also wore like, she also didn't care about gender boundaries. You know, she rocked some gear that was like masculine in nature, and then she would rock feminine stuff too, and very innovative styles. So that's why they're compared to each other. I just wanted to bring that up. But Selena, yes, that was all her too. She crossed boundaries. She created a crossover album. She wanted to be a crossover artist. She didn't want to stay in one lane. And when she first came out, you know, doing Tejano music, or they used to call it Tex-Mex, right? There were mostly men. It was very male dominated. But Aquarius energy people, they see restrictions regarding gender as bullshit, and they're like, man, F that, I'm gonna cross that line. Like, male, female, it doesn't matter. This is what I want to do. This is what I like to do. Okay, so that's why Selena was like kind of a tomboy growing up. She could kick it with the fellas, and she could be girly, you know. That's that Aquarius energy within her. So yeah, that's why she dominated Tejano music even as a woman, and that's why she wanted to cross over into English music. And that's also why I saw an interview with her where she said she wanted to do, in the future, she wanted to do an album in French. Like, she was trying to learn French as well. So, you know, she was just about breaking those boundaries down, man, like crossing lines and stuff. And that's totally Aquarian people, like I said, they're very innovative, so they could be the first to do things, you know, or come out with sounds that are very different if they're musicians, like Selena. And Aaliyah was like that too, very futuristic sound, you know, like using producers that had sounds that nobody had heard in that genre before. Selena did the same thing. The Los Dinos, like her brother AB, the producer, she said that she loved the fact that he incorporated different sounds that wasn't normally heard in Tejano music. And that's how she met Chris too, because Chris was more of a rock guitar artist, a rock guitarist, you know. And they said, you know, it will be cool for him to incorporate those sounds into Tejano music, which wasn't something that was common at the time. And then also they incorporated like other sounds like keyboards and stuff that they were using in the current like pop music sounds of like the late 80s and the early 90s. So, you know, they were all just very innovative, which is super dope. Like one day maybe I'll do just Selena's chart and her family and everything, because I've looked at all their charts and I'm just like, whoa, like just blown away at, you know, what they say about them and their music and stuff. So anyway, yeah, so that's how Selena is who she is, a superstar. People see her as an angel, a goddess, you know, because of Neptune up here. Okay, so normally people that have Neptune on an angle, usually with their ascendant or their midheaven, like their ascendant is how they present themselves to the world, you know, on a personal level, and then this is on a career and public level. So usually people like that, they are ones that end up living on forever, you know what I mean, even through merchandise and t-shirts and everything. Like Marilyn Monroe, I believe she had Neptune in the first house in Leo, I want to say. So see, Marilyn, she's still idolized everywhere, you know, way like decades after she's passed on. So that's why Selena is within that category too. Personality stuff though, like real deal personality stuff, and why was she such the lover that she was? Selena has a lot of energy that's very similar to the sign of Taurus. Okay, I just thought I would point that out because people, oh, Selena's an Aries. The only thing Selena has in Aries is her sun. Okay, the sun is the conscious expression of yourself and your personality. She's an Aries sun, so she was most def an Aries. All right, very headstrong, very determined, and you know, she was a little bossy. She got her way, and she could kick it with the fellas. Aries is a very masculine energy sign. And also, she hated to lose at anything. She was a daredevil. If you challenged her in something, she was like, all right, bet. Watch me, you know? So Aries was definitely like, it shone through in her personality. But you see, going a little deeper, she has the sun in the second house. Second house energy is very similar to Taurus, with Taurus being the second sign on the regular zodiac wheel, you know? So if you have your sun in the second house, is no matter what sign it's in, it's going to act kind of Taurus like. So this is why Taurus rules the voice. Taurus and the second house rule the voice. And people who have placements in those signs or in that house, they tend to have voices that people find to be very pleasant, and or they could be very dope singers. A lot of good singers, some of the best, they have second house or Taurus planets. So Selena has her sun in the second house. She has Mercury in the sign of Taurus. Mercury is how you speak, and it can control your voice too. So she has Mercury in the sign of Taurus, and then she has Venus in the same sign as her second house. Now, this may confuse some people, but yo, if you have any questions, you can always drop them below and I'll explain. But just to keep it moving and to be like my mega astro nerd self. So I take a look at astrology charts from using two different methods, two different house systems. Right here you see it says method blah blah Placidus. Placidus is like based on your exact birth time, how the chart divides up the sky exactly based on that time. There's also another method called whole sign. The whole sign chart system, it works the same way. It moves the planets into different houses, but I still find both interpretations to apply. So Selena also had her Venus in the sign of her second house. Venus rules the voice. Taurus rules the voice. The second house rules the voice. She has all this energy, good energy. Venus makes things pleasant wherever she's at, you know? So Venus in the second house can make you have a pleasant voice, good singing voice. So yeah, she has a lot of Taurus-esque, you know, energy, a lot of Venusian energy and masculine energy too. So that's why she could flip both roles, you know, play both sides. What this does for her personality as well is she had a very big love of food and of shopping, more things that Taurus, second house, and Venus all rule. And she and Chris really bonded over stuff like that. And let me tell you, Chris gives me very strong Taurus vibes. Like, I don't know his birth time to map out his chart to see how, like where, but I feel like he could maybe be a Taurus rising. I don't know. We'll look at his chart in a little bit. But I feel like that's why they bonded so much, because they both have that similar energy. Let's look at Selena's Venus. She has Venus, which is the planet of love, you know, and how you express your love and everything. And for a feminine creature, it is how you express your femininity. She has it in Pisces. Let me tell you, Pisces are the ultimate romantics, man. Pisces energy people, the ultimate romantics that write poetry, write songs. Like, Pisces is very artistic and creative. So we will put, Piscean people will put our lovers in songs, poems, draw them, have them painted, you know. I feel like Chris has some of that energy somehow too, because he had paintings done of Selena. He had her painted on his guitar, you know, so he has to have that somewhere too. But that's how she was that way, like such an open and free, expressive, emotionally expressive lover. The energy of Aries is not like that. So, you know, her sun sign did not, you know, come into play when it came to expressing love like that. It was her Venus and Pisces. So in the end, she, you know, sung songs that were and wrote some that were about her love for Chris, you know, like he said that he believes Dreaming of You was written about him. Yeah, he said for sure Dreaming of You was about him. And Pisces is the ultimate dreamer sign. So she was a very, very much a dreamy, romantic person because of her Venus and Pisces. And she would write him little cards and love notes, and just reading his book with him telling the way she expressed her feelings to him, it was definitely through her Venus and Pisces, like most def. Now, Selena could be, she was a little possessive over her mans, okay? Just a little bit. I find this to be because she has a Venus and Pluto opposition here. Pluto is a planet that rules possessiveness, and Venus is how you express love. So Pluto is a planet that rules Scorpio. Okay, so she could be a little bit like, a little jealous, a little possessive, like a Scorpio, because Chris had wanted to, after he got kicked out of her band because of their relationship, he was like, well, I'm just going to keep doing my own thing with my own band, with my homeboys or whatever. And she was like, no, I'm sorry. You have to stay touring with me so I can keep an eye on your ass, okay? Because I know how musicians are. I know how that lifestyle is. And no, like, she's basically like, I'm not letting you out of my sight, homie. So that was her Venus and Pluto opposition. And her Venus also opposed his Pluto too. So when you have that in your synastry with someone, it makes you guys both like possessive over each other like that. But it can make mostly like the Venus person possessive over the Pluto person, because he said himself, like, he wasn't too much of a jealous dude. He didn't want to come off like that, but on the inside he didn't want nobody to fuck with his wife. He didn't openly like come off like that. But yeah, they were both like, I'm not gonna let you go, I don't want to let you out of my sight. Very clung on to each other, and I believe this is why. So that's her Venus energy. Now let's look at Selena's moon, because the moon is another planet that it rules emotions, like how you express your emotions, how you nurture others, and how you like to be nurtured by others too. But it's expressiveness, of your feelings. And her moon is in Sagittarius. So with her being a Sag moon, first of all, like, personality wise, this is why she had that big beautiful smile. That's why Sagittarian people, they have the biggest smiles. They're ruled by Jupiter, the planet of good luck and joy and all of that stuff. She also has Jupiter in Sagittarius in its home sign, up here in the 10th house of public image. So that's why people saw her as such a happy, joyful person, and nothing less than that. Okay, she really held up that image naturally. But her moon in Sagittarius, she nurtured like a Sag, had her express her feelings of love like a Sagittarius as well as a Pisces. So there were times when she would express her love through doing random impulsive things, because Sag is a fire sign. And she also loved to travel with her mans, with her husband. They met through traveling a lot, being in a traveling band. And the moon also can show something about your family, like how your family and your early childhood was. And, what was her family in early childhood like? They traveled a lot, and Sag is a sign of travel. So that definitely shows there. But yeah, how she loved was like a Sagittarius. She loved to do exciting, adventurous things. She was, very, very random, very random about a lot of stuff too. But yeah, that's where she gets her big smile from. That's why I was like, I found somewhere online where they were trying to say, oh no, the astro theme is incorrect, she was born at night. I was like, bullshit, man, because that would put her as a Capricorn moon, and cat moons don't smile like that. Cat moons have chronic RBF. All right, so no, Selena's is a Sag moon all day. And she always tried to keep a very positive attitude. She tried to put herself out there as a very positive, motivational person, telling kids to stay in school, and Sag rules education. So she was all about that life, like, for real. She wasn't faking it, So yeah, that's her moon. It's in Sagittarius. She does have her Saturn. Her Saturn is down here in the 3rd house, which means it was 3rd house is education, and it's also speaking. So Saturn is a planet of mastery. So Saturn makes you work harder to achieve things wherever it's at in your chart. So she did have to work very hard to pass school, to pass high school. She had to do it on the road while she was working. So that's how that played out there. But also languages, speaking and stuff. She had to learn Spanish and master it. And so she was able to pick up on it with Mercury being here in the 3rd. Mercury's communication and speech, as well as the 3rd house, rules the same thing. Saturn here, it made it like it took some time, but she was still able to to master it, you know. But one thing I wanted to really point out about Saturn here, Saturn is in the same sign and in a conjunction with her IC or the fourth house cusp, which rules, and if we move it here, this is where it's at, which rules your family and early childhood. Saturn rules authoritarians, really strict disciplinarians, mean ass fathers, you know, like that, and it rules hard work and discipline and business. So this really shows how during her early childhood, her family, fourth house, she had to work a lot. She didn't really get a childhood. You know, she didn't really get to spend a lot of time going out to play and being free like that as much as other kids. And then some people have commented and said, oh, that's similar to Michael Jackson. You know, Michael Jackson, I believe he had Saturn up here in the 10th house, which also rules parental figures and stuff too. So that spoke to his father being like that, you know, and him growing up to be how he was, more childlike as he got older. So Selena has it in the opposite house, but it's very similar in how it plays out for her though. So because of that, you know, when she grew up, she was like a big kid. Like her Sagittarius moon is very childlike as well. And that's why like Chris understood, you know, her history with how she grew up. So anything she wanted to do, like to get a bunch of pets, and you know, she loved to do things like walk around barefoot outside just to feel the cement and the grass under her feet, because she said she didn't get to do a lot of stuff like that when she was growing up. And she was excited about the ice cream truck, getting something from the ice cream man like a little kid. And that's why. And then also her family was very strictly religious too. That also shows in her Sagittarius moon, because Sagittarius rules religions. But the strictness of it all is found in her Saturn in the fourth house of family. So they weren't able to celebrate certain holidays, birthdays, Christmas. They weren't able to celebrate that. So there was one Christmas that Chris made sure that she got presents. They were respectful of her beliefs and everything, you know, they didn't do the whole Christmassy thing, but they still bought her presents. And he said that her face was like lit up like she was like a little kid, you know, opening her presents. He gave that to her. He gave childhood experiences to her that were missing because of this stingy old man. There's a reason why I call Saturn stingy old man Saturn. All right. It's not to diss on Saturn's energy or, you know, the sign that Saturn rules, which is Capricorn, and just say that, you know, all Saturn people or Capricorn people are stingy and mean. No, but look, see how it played out for her. Like her father was like, no, about everything growing up. So it really shows here in her chart. Her Mercury landing in her third house in this chart, but in her fourth in this one. What that equates to is how she communicated and how she thought. She was able to be very quick-witted. Like Chris always said, she made people feel comfortable, even strangers. That's her Aquarius rising. Aquarius is very humanitarian-like and very friendly, treats everyone as a friend. The third house is like being very neighborly, you know, very neighborly and just talking to whomever. And freely without like stopping to think about it, being very open to conversing with anybody. So her Mercury, you know, her Mercury is in the third house, but also lands in the fourth, and her sun also lands in the third house in this chart too. So she could pick up on conversations. She was very quick-witted. She was very goofy. She loved to play pranks. That was this mercurial third house energy, and also her Sagittarius moon. Sag people love to play pranks and, you know, and stuff like that. So that's how she expressed herself a lot. Mercury in the fourth house can be a lot like Cancerian type of energy and be very sensitive and emotional. So that's why even though she was an Aries and an Aquarius, and air and fire signs are masculine energy, they're not the most emotional. Where her Mercury lands made her very emotionally expressive, and where her Venus is too, in a water sign, in an earth house, you know, that made her very emotionally expressive as well. Selena has Mars in Capricorn. The Sun and Mars, these are the two most masculine energy planets that affect your personality, right? And you usually inherit them from your father. So Sun in Aries and Mars in Capricorn, these are two very dominating signs. And her father was like that. It showed. So she was a lot like her pops, you know, in a lot of ways. But then she got this little Venus and Pisces. It's all sensitive and stuff. You usually get your feminine planets from your mother. So she's got, you know, these Moon and Venus energies from her mom. And so she was able to be more sensitive, you know, still. But it also shows for a woman what kind of masculine energy she's attracted to, because you know how they say a little girl's first love is their daddy, you know, their pops. They look up to their dad, you know, as like their hero and the ultimate man figure that can like rescue them and stuff. And that's true. And then you grow up, and a lot of women do look for, unconsciously they look for qualities of their father within men, you know. So she has the Sun and Mars, you know, in these signs. So she is attracted to very masculine energy, to very driven men who are all about their business, okay? Very business-like, hardworking men with these placements. Now also we look at, let's see, she has, well, I threw in these couple of asteroids here just for shits and giggles. The asteroid Amor, which means love, and Eros, which can also show what you are super physically attracted to, what kind of features and stuff. And they both land right next to each other in Taurus. So this also tells me like, yo, like I really feel like a lot of Taurus-y type of vibes from Chris, and maybe he could be a Taurus rising, I don't know, but she really likes Taurus types of men. Saturn, you know, also is a planet that you inherit from your father, like how your father is or was, and her father was very Taurus-like as well, all about his money and his business, okay? So she's attracted to Taurus type of energy in men too. So I think Chris kind of has some of those qualities, but we're going to look at him in a little bit. Okay. But yeah, so that's just kind of briefly looking at Selena, what kind of woman and lover she was. Let's look at Chris. Now, like I said, Chris, we don't have a birth time for him, but, you know, just looking at his basics. Oh, and I also pulled up a couple of name asteroids, because sometimes if you find name asteroids that are very similar to a person's name and you plug them in and you see where they land in their chart, if they land next to any of your planets that are very significant, they can show how that person is definitely destined to be a part of your life too. So this asteroid is not it's not Quintanilla, it's Quintilla, which is very close. And then there's Selene, not Selena, but is very close. And look, he has Selene next to Lilith, which for a man, that's his, you know, ultimate fantasy woman, you know, where his Lilith is at. Yeah, and it's also close to his Venus, which is also like the girlfriend planet for masculine people, you know, or hetero men. So he was definitely very drawn to her. And then this asteroid Quintilla is next to his sun, and the sun can rule part of your identity. So the Quintanilla family and Selena herself, with her having that last name, they're a very big part of his identity, which is the sun. Isn't that dope? I love looking up name asteroids. I didn't find a Perez one, or there's a lot of Chris variations of Chris asteroids, and it was just too much, man, for me to look up. But I'm sure she may have something, but I just wanted to show how even though she has passed on, she still lives on through him, because she's a big part of his world and his identity, you know, through these asteroids. Now, Chris is a Leo, and I've seen comments where people say, well, Selena and Chris, of course, they are together and compatible because he's a Leo and she's an Aries, period, point blank, and they're both fire signs. Okay, but if you look at them, look at their personalities. Selena was very much more outgoing because she's double fire. She's a fire sign moon and a fire sign sun, okay? Now, Chris, he's only a fire sign sun. That's it. He's also got moon in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo, and Venus in Cancer. But he also has Mars in Sag, which is a fire sign, and the Sun and Mars are the masculine planets, so he expresses his masculinity through fire energy. But I'm betting that these probably land in, if we know his birth time, these planets would land in like houses that water down that fire for him, because he's not like, he had some F-boy ways about him before he started dating Selena, yes, but he's just not he's not super fiery, like, you know what I mean? He had his moments, but he's not like that all the time. He could be very shy. He said so himself. Like, he's a little more low key. And that's because he's got planets in Earth in Virgo and in water in Cancer, which Earth and water are much more low key, laid back, and can be shy. Like, these two signs, Cancer and Virgo, could be like super shy, okay? So he was much more like held back, you know, and especially when it came to being affectionate, Leo energy is very affectionate, very just wants to show off. They're all about the PDA. Leo energy, man, they're the types, Leos are the types, they will show off their boo on social media and be like, look at my babe, and always posting pictures of them, like annoying the fuck out of everybody normally. But because he's got, you know, this Virgo energy and this Cancer energy, he wasn't really about that life, you know? So Chris was a little more pulled back, okay? Virgo moon people, they're very analytical, and they try to think about things logically first. Like, he said that he wasn't even checking for Selena like that at first. He saw her in a videotape that one of his friends were playing. Dudes around him would comment on her and her looks and her body all the time. He was just like, yeah, she's cool. I'm more interested in figuring out how her brother got so dope and how I can link with him on business. Like, that is so Virgo right there. They're more about work than love. You know, they'll put work and money over love any day. And if you're a Virgo and you're not like that, you may want to check your other planetary placements, because they'll make you more about that life. But Virgo in itself, no ma'am. Virgos are the sign that rules work. So he was more like trying to link up with AB first, you know, that was, and then try to see how he can get in the band and learn from him and stuff. That was his motive. It wasn't to get at Selena. He wasn't checking for her. Just like a lot of these soulmate stories, like, you know, just things just started happening down the line, which I'll get into in a second. But yeah, his Virgo energy made him more pulled back, more reserved, and more like nervous and scared to make a move. He wasn't the one to really make the moves. He said Selena made the moves on him first. She was the initiator of stuff, and that's her Aries energy, her Sagittarius energy, because she was more fiery, you guys, more fiery. Fire signs don't give a you know? So he was more tapped into these energies. His moon and Venus, which express love, were in these in Cancer and Virgo. That's why he didn't really, you know, act out like that. But yeah, so Chris could be very shy and reserved. He wasn't about that PDA life, and, you know, Selena would be hugged up all on him all the time, and he would be the one like, yo, chill, and kind of like freeze up. That's so freaking Virgo, like all day. Oh my God, let me tell you guys. So yeah, that's why they were like that. So he expresses himself very much in a Virgo and Cancerian way. Venus in Cancer, for a man, Venus can rule the type of woman he's attracted to. So yes, he is attracted to women who are Cancerian in nature. It doesn't mean that, oh, well, Selena's not a Cancer, so they're not compatible. So what are you saying? No. She doesn't have to be born under the sign of Cancer or have planets in Cancer. Remember, I showed you guys, she has fourth house type of energy. Okay, fourth house, it corresponds to Cancer energy. It's very similar. So the way that she spoke was very sensitive, and plus her Venus is also in a water sign. Water sign Venus people, they express love in much more soft and romantic ways. They're more open to their emotions, you know? So that's why, even though Selena, he has Venus in Cancer, but Selena's not technically a Cancer or anything, she still has qualities of a woman that he enjoys. She liked to cook and clean. When they were married and they finally had their own place, he wrote a few times in the book, like, I would come home and Selena's cooking and cleaning. Well, because like that appeal to his Venus and Cancerian energy men who are hetero, they love women who like to play that mommy and that wifey role, that's something that tickles their little fancy. And then Virgo men, he's got Moon in Virgo. The way he likes to be nurtured is by, he likes a woman who likes to clean. When he was in his book, when he was recalling his mom growing up and how she was, he talked about his mom working, coming home and cleaning and cooking, okay? Virgo is the sign that rules work. So a lot of Virgo moon people, their moms usually were like hard workers. So he likes a woman who's a worker, but she also can come home and be little Susie homemaker, Virgo energy men can be very helpful. They like to help around the house and stuff like that. Usually, okay? Depending upon other things, but just the sign of Virgo itself is a sign that is of service and help. So he said that they like to do chores together around the house. They like to do yard work together. Like Selena, with her Taurus-y type of energy, she wasn't afraid to get in that dirt, honey, okay? Get down in the earth. The EARF. She wasn't afraid to get down in there and do like yard work and stuff. They would do it together. That's why Chris appreciated her energy, her qualities, her characteristics like that, because of his Moon and Venus signs, being here. Now, Chris, the way he speaks very Virgo because he has Mercury in Virgo, but also his Moon is there too. And Moon rules the sign of Cancer. It gives similar qualities to Cancer. So he speaks in a very like shy, sensitive way. But once someone cracks open that shyness, he can really speak his emotions. Like, but it takes a certain takes a certain type of somebody to get him to be like that. Virgos are very hard to pull out of their holes, man. Like I compare Virgos to like these weird little gophers or something, Like they hide down in their little gopher hole and they're buzzing around down there, and then they pop their head up once in a while all nervous and look around, and then they're like, ooh, and they duck back in there and run around. That's how Virgo energy could be. So they're like these squirrely little things, So sometimes it's hard to get them to sit still and to express their feelings like on a really deep emotional level. So Chris was very Virgo about stuff. So yeah, that's why he was how he was. And Selena was able to draw things out of him. But why was she able to draw things out of him though? We're gonna look at their synastry in a minute. But also, excuse me, Chris having that incident with like the hotel room and him getting caught for drunk driving and getting into fights and then having a little bit of F-boy ways about him before Selena with drinking and women. That's all his Mars and Sagittarius all day. Okay. Like, I'm sorry to say, Sag energy could be the ultimate F-boy energy, and it takes a certain somebody that really calms them down to get them to like let go of those type of ways, but even when they were married, like he did that hotel room trashing and he got arrested for drunk driving and stuff while they were married, but she put his ass in check though. Like she put him in check. And also because they had such a loving relationship, he didn't want to piss her off, and his Virgo energy didn't want to lose his job. He was so concerned, like, oh my God. And then plus how they had to do their relationship in secret. That's his Virgo energy all day that was like, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my job, which is why he didn't want to take risks. He didn't want to be so open and expressive, and affectionate in front of people. It was her. After a while, she was like, I don't give a fuck, whatever. Her Venus and Pisces didn't care. But his Virgo energy was like, like all paranoid, So that explains that dynamic of them early on, like why they had to be all hidden and stuff. And like why he was more okay with it than she was at first. Okay, now let's get into some good stuff. So, when Selena and Chris met, I'm going to show you guys an example of times when you can have a very karmic, fated relationship happen in your life. And karmic and fated, don't let those words scare you, okay? To make you think, oh, it means a horrible person who's going to be abusive and like, mess up your life. No, not necessarily, not always, but it is a very destined meeting, and there's a lot of magic there a lot of times, and this person is very significant to you, whether the relationship lasts forever or not, And the way to see that, first of all, is looking at the north and south nodes, okay? These are the points in the sky that rule karma, fate, destiny. Your south node is like past life stuff, and then the north node is like this current life's mission stuff. So wherever the north and south nodes are transiting currently, or, during a certain period of time, it tells a lot about the type of people that'll be coming into your life. Now, Selena and Chris met in 1989. I thought I read somewhere that he said it could have been 88. Maybe when he first saw her was maybe 1988. But they started, developing a bond around 1989 when Selena was 18. Okay. I just threw a date in there. I don't know if this is a significant date or not. But Selena was, first of all, the north and south nodes, karma, fate, and destiny, were transiting through her sign of Aquarius, and the opposite sign, her 7th house of relationships, committed relationships, and marriage is the 7th house. So for her, the south node transiting here, sometimes this does mean a partner that's from like a previous lifetime. You're meeting them again. Okay. And Selena was in her first nodal return, meaning the north and south nodes of karma and fate and destiny were meeting the ones that are in her chart, meaning they're coming back to the same place they were when she was born. And when you have your nodal return, you do meet people that are significant. So around 18 to 19 years old, some people do get into these relationships that are very impactful for them around age 18, or maybe some go through breakups, or there's some event that happens, or you meet people that maybe they're not like romantic partners, but they really impact your life when you have your nodal returns. Okay, but this happens to be in her house of relationships. So Selena was already set up to have some very karmic relationship stuff happen because she was born with the south node in her relationship house. So the nodes were like already here, and also when we look at the eclipse cycles, eclipses, they eclipse people in your life and they can eclipse people out too. Okay. So we're going to look at that too. Now, during 1989, the north and south nodes were in Aquarius and Leo. And Selena's in Aquarius Rising. So it was definitely relationship stuff. Now for Chris, he's a Leo sun. And then, the south node was approaching his sun. The north node was directly opposite his sun, meaning that's still like his 7th house of relationships. If we look at it from a sun sign perspective, it's going to affect a person in a very similar way, to meet someone, and it's a very destined meeting, and the south node does rule past life, or your past coming back to you. So when he started developing a bond with Selena around that time, she was definitely like a past life partner. And I'll show you guys also in their compatibility when we line up their charts. How do we know that they were past life partners? Okay, it does have to do with this. I want to show you guys the eclipse cycles real quick. Okay, so when we look at where were the eclipses in 1988 and 89, to kind of eclipses, they open portals of like spiritual, soulful things. Okay, so the portal of love and meeting someone, and it's like a very destined meeting, they were being opened for Selena and Chris starting in 1988, because let's see, we had an eclipse at 27 degrees of Pisces, and that was on Selena's Venus. We had eclipses in Virgo, which is on Chris's moon. Okay, so eclipses on your Venus, your moon, they can, work the same way with bringing someone into your life. There was, eclipses on their Pisces and Virgo placements pretty much. Then in 1989, things started to pick up the pace with them, meeting each other, starting to develop feelings and stuff. And we had an eclipse in Leo and Aquarius, it was the sun in Leo, moon in Aquarius, okay, eclipse. And that was right on Selena's north and south, her north and south nodes, but also on Chris's sun, so it's very fitting, it's very telling. And then there was still stuff in Virgo affecting Chris, and then eclipses kept continuing in Aquarius, and Aquarius and Leo. 1990, that's when their relationship really started to pick up the pace. So throughout 1990 and 91, there was still eclipses in Aquarius, eclipses in Leo, and then also in Cancer. And Chris's Venus is in Cancer, which rules relationships and women. And then in Capricorn, and Selena's Mars, which can rule relationships with men or the men in her life, eclipses on that too. So, the eclipse cycles of 88, 89, 90, 91, like they were just hitting them to where, they were opening up the portals for a very destined, fated love affair to happen. So how do we know that Chris and Selena were soulmates? So as I mentioned, the north and south nodes, they're portals to your soul, your soul's mission, your soul's journey, your soul's destiny, and fated events that are very soulful, very impactful on you, very deeply. So if we look at this, these are Selena and Chris's charts lined up, okay? So for Selena, we have her birth time, so it's more accurate with like the houses, if you're keen to astrology and you know what the houses mean, right? So if we look here, look for the north and south nodes in their chart. Selena's south node is 21 degrees of Leo. Chris's sun is 21 degrees of Leo. They exactly conjoin one another. When you have exact conjunctions between planets in your chart and someone else's, when they line up, you guys are significant in each other's lives, whether good or bad, one way or another. Okay. So, the sun, it rules important male figures in someone's life. It can mean, children or childlike joy. It can also mean that type of a relationship. So whatever planet of someone else's conjoins your south node, you guys do have a past life together, especially if it's exact degree. Like, come on now. You know what I'm saying? It's like evident right here. So with Chris's sun on Selena's south node, it means that he was a significant male figure in her life. He could have been like, and okay, when I say this, don't think this is some weird incestual thing, but sometimes people as souls, they were family. They could have been family in a past life, and then they come back in another lifetime, in different bodies, different souls, but have a different type of relationship. Maybe that could be romantic, and it's not gross or anything. It's beyond earthly realm, constrictions and relationship stuff. So he could have been a fatherly figure for her in a past life, or maybe he was just a man that was important in her life, or maybe they knew each other as kids in a past life. Maybe maybe he was just someone who was a guiding light to her in a past life. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. Maybe he was some sort of leader for her, but he could have been a husband. The sun could be husband energy, so he could have been her husband in a past life. Now look at where's Chris's north and south nodes. So Chris's north node here in red, which rules his current life's, mission and soul's journey, is 21 degrees of Pisces. Selena's Venus, 21 degrees of Pisces. This means they were destined to be in love. Now listen, these north and south nodes though, ooh man, they are no joke. They're no joke. When they're like magnetic. When you meet people whose planets in their chart exactly conjoin your north and south nodes, the attraction to them, whether it is romantic or not, you can meet friends and you guys can have this really dope bond, and it's very hard for you guys to be apart for too long or not talk to each other, for too long and stuff like that. It's hard to have a day go by that they don't cross your mind. You could be very, very close, You can even have family members that you have these nodal conjunctions with, and, it's not romantic, but you guys are always there for each other. You always find ways to be around each other. You get along with them better. You're very close, more than you are with other family members, stuff like that. It just means like you guys are kindred souls. You know each other on a very deep soul level. It's not just surface level, So, but sometimes it is romantic. So Selena's Venus hit his north node. When it's double like this, it's definitely mutual. So she was destined to be a significant feminine energy within his life in this lifetime. I say Venus is the girlfriend energy, and the moon is wife energy. But, regardless, Venus is love. So when you read Chris's book, okay, and you listen to how he describes the love that they had, it just sounds like out of this world, like unreal. And these type of conjunctions will definitely bring it. He even said their love was deeper than the bonds of marriage. Okay, he always talked about how they expressed their mutual feelings for one another, and they were so happy that they would like be in tears from happiness. That type of love, it's from the soul. It's not of just the physical world. So their relationship started out, I showed you guys where the nodes were transiting, the eclipses were happening, opening them up over time. They didn't just right away just start hooking up, and were just right away attracted to each other. Like I mentioned before, the nodes, the eclipses, they opened up the portal for them to step into each other's lives. Yes, but neither Chris nor Selena were really checking for each other at first. And then, it was a fated, destined thing for them to be in a band together. And then slowly but surely, over time, things started moving and shifting and opening things up more for them spiritually, to where it was like you couldn't deny, like you can't deny that type of a love. These, like I said, these points are magnets. So you guys are magnets to each other. You can't stay apart for too long. And in his book, he even said, like, they even expressed those feelings. Well, mostly Selena did. She was mostly the verbal one about, because she's Venus and Pisces. Pisces, the romantic poets, we will tell you all day, like, how we feel about you, Virgos will be holding that shit back for forever. And Leos may be a little too proud, So, but Chris said that no other woman had gotten under his skin like Selena did. And that means not like in the way, oh, she's annoying. I'm like really opened him up. And when you have these very like fated, destined, karmic meetings with people, they do change your life. These people impact your life to where it does change your personality. Chris said that after he and Selena started dating, he became more generous and more expressive of his emotions, even to like family members and friends and stuff, to where he was a little more closed off before her. He was inspired by her. The sun inspires, Venus opens you up to love. And another thing is when you have these type of meetings with people, a lot of times these relationships do start out with one or both people are already in a relationship. Unfortunately, it is like that. Now, I'm not saying I condone, creeping and cheating and lying and sneaking around and stuff. But when you have this type of thing going on, it's undeniable. Unfortunately, it ends up like that. You meet under weird circumstances. Maybe there's a big age difference or there's some type of barriers in the way, obstacles in the way, but this magnetic attraction, it just grows like it to where it becomes its own entity, and it's just overwhelms you. So that's how both of them felt towards each other. So Selena, of course, being the double fire, the Aries sun, Sag moon, Aries energy especially, being very bold, daring, risk-taking, and Sag is like that too, but she was the one that first made the moves on him. He explained how he had a girlfriend, back home, unfortunately, and a plane ride back from a gig, out of the country, Selena grabbed his hand. He even said Selena was the first one to, put the moves on, you know what I mean, to make their first kiss happen and everything. Because a lot of times in these like soulmate connections, they say it's the feminine energy that recognizes the soul bond first, because we're more emotional creatures, and we have to open up the masculine and help them to, because masculine energy will fight off their emotions. And Chris even said, that he was trying to fight it off. Oh, there were so many sparks, but I had to try to stomp them out because business, like Virgo shit, but, and just man shit in general. So that's what was going on with them. But Selena, the divine feminine in this little, soulmate union, she was just like, no, I don't want to deny it. I don't want to hide it. She was the one that was more open. Even when they were like in the studio, she's the one that kind of like was letting it be known, letting it slip out, that they were together, being affectionate and stuff, when he was just a little, like, his Virgo energy was all nervous and uncomfortable. Like, I don't want any of our coworkers to see this. Yeah. But she was like, man, fuck this. Like, I'm in love. So, anyway, this definitely is the main thing that shows that they were soulmates. Okay. Now, also another thing to get a little more nerdier and advanced, there's this point that's called the vertex point. And basically it's another point that, if someone's planets are right next to it, or exactly conjoined to the vertex of someone else's, it's a fated meeting. No doubt about it. So a moon in vertex, listen, like anyone that I've had a type of a bond with like this, either their moon was on my vertex or vice versa. My moon is on theirs, and the moon rules your emotions. So it's like you guys have this ability to open each other up emotionally, like no one ever does, and it can be kind of scary, but still, it happens. So Chris even said nobody else made him like emotional like that, He actually has feelings for her, where before maybe other girls, he had little girlfriends or whatever, but nobody meant anything like her. And that's probably one factor right here. Another thing is, if we take a look at Selena's chart, her 8th house is Virgo. The 8th house is the house of deep soul bonds with people. So if you have whatever sign your 8th house is, when people fall into that, their planets fall into your 8th house, especially if it's Sun, Moon, Venus, those planets, you have that bond that I never want to let you go. And it can be mutual and vice versa. You really impact each other deeply, So that's another factor there too with these two. So those are mostly the most like soulmate, those are typical soulmate things. Like when I'm telling you guys, I started diving into their relationship because when I listened to interviews of how he was talking about her, and like she was just how he adored her, how she was the most ethereal being to him, you know? And like how their relationship was and how the sparks flew and everything. I just heard in the description, I heard the north and south nodes. I heard it. I heard all these soulmate things. When I say I heard it, like it's hard to explain. It's like a an intuitive thing. I have a lot of experience with these type of relationships personally, but I've also seen them over and over again by looking at other people's charts. So I recognize it right away when people say key things. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, this is why they're soulmates. This is how we see it in astrology. And, you know, to feel this level of love and it be mutual, it is a very rare thing. Okay. And a lot of times these type of bonds, these soulmate things, they don't go without. It's like it was easy for them to bond with each other and to feel things for each other, but they, you know, her pops wasn't having it, you know what I'm saying, with them, with her dating or anything. That was his precious baby girl, and also she's the star, the superstar. He didn't want her career to be ruined, and everybody that fell under the umbrella of her to have their careers ruined. Okay, so because of that, her dad wasn't having it with them dating. So that's a really huge obstacle that they had to get through. And these karmic relationships, these soulmate relationships, they're not always that simple. They usually are not. There's usually some big giant problem in the way. Okay, and they may take a while before these people are actually free to just love. It may take time. It may take a few years, you know, or even more than that sometimes for people. And it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of agony. A lot of times, periods of separation, and then coming back together again. You know, they weren't really technically separated ever, but it's just like they had to play it off like they weren't even together, you know, for the sake of work, of the band and her dad. So they did kind of have to, you know, play it smooth and not really fully engage with each other. Like their souls were and their hearts were reaching for each other all the time, but they couldn't fully come together. You know, these situations are like that a lot of times. Okay, now I wanted to show you guys another thing, sorry. Another thing is, you know, whose is this? Oh no, Chris, his Juno. Juno is another thing you look at. The asteroid that can rule ideal marriage partners, serious relationship partners. He has it in Capricorn. He has it in Capricorn. Wait, is it in Cap? Let's see, Juno. Yeah, he has it in an early degree Capricorn, but it's in a conjunction with Selena's moon. Moon is wifey energy. Juno could be wifey, you know, energy too. So she really met his needs and vice versa when it came to being like they already felt married. The south node, north node thing already makes them feel married as it is. And then here's this conjunction too. So they were destined to be married to each other pretty much. And then plus, Selena has Mars in Capricorn. Selena has Mars in Capricorn. So she was a super hard worker. She's all about her business, you know? So he values that in a ideal partner, somebody who is a business person, an entrepreneur, works very hard, you know. So that's how she fit the bill, man. It was just wow. And then also Chris's Venus, which rules love and relationships, of course, falls in Selena's 5th house. Okay, in her 5th house, which is romance and fun and dating, like all the honeymoon shit, you know what I mean, like the butterflies that you feel when you first meet someone. If someone's Venus falls in your 5th house, yo, like that in itself can be a very instant romantic connection. Not the soul stuff, but the fun, and they had a lot of fun together. So that makes a lot of sense. And then when we look at it from the other astrological house system, the whole sign house system, his Venus falls in her 6th house of work. So that can definitely mean someone meeting a relationship partner through work, So it was all destined, you guys. It was all very fated and destined events for them to meet, for them to fall in love. Let me see, what degree is Selena's Jupiter? Her Jupiter is 5 degrees of Sag. Okay, and then Chris's Mars is 10. Okay, and then her Jupiter on his Mars, like in Sagittarius, Jupiter expands what it touches. Jupiter and Sag is all about turning up, having a good time, saying fuck it about anything, like just taking risks. And Mars and Sagittarius can be like that too, but like I said, I'm sure Chris's Mars is affected by where it's placed if we knew his birth time, to where it's not as much of a risk taker as it normally would be. But Selena's Jupiter on his Mars expanded that. That's why she was like, yo, yeah, let's ride a motorcycle together. Like, oh, you got a motorcycle? Dope. I want to learn how to ride it too, Let me drive us. That's why she liked to drive fast, and her Sag energy made her like to drive fast. And he wasn't as bold and daring, but she opened that side of him up to where his Virgo would be all cautious and be like, oh no, we shouldn't do any of that. We got to follow rules and be safe. But in the end, he'd be like, all right, whatever, fuck it. Like, let's just do it, because of her Jupiter on his Mars, like making his Mars and Sag be like, okay, yeah, we'll take some risk and it might be fun, So, yeah, so that's their relationship just in a nutshell. I can go on and on and on, you guys, but I wanted to show you guys something else here. Their marriage date. Let's see. Okay. So the day that they got married, how can you see marriage in astrology, like a time period to where you might get married, or find your marriage partner or whatever? So once again, the North and South nodes come into play. Okay. Now, this is their wedding date when they eloped. And I said it for like 12 noon, just because it sounds like from the story that it was like in the afternoon sometime. Excuse me. So during that time, the North and South nodes, the North node was on very close to Selena's moon. Let's see. It was 4 degrees of Capricorn. Okay, so it was very close to her moon. The moon can symbolize, not necessarily marriage, but being comfortable with someone, building a home life with someone. Your emotions are amplified when the North node touches your moon. So you can have very fated events that affect, where you live, because they did end up like living together, getting a home together and stuff as this progressed and really hit her moon, And then also the South node was in her 5th house of romance. Okay. And then Jupiter was in her 7th house, 8th house, which the 7th house is marriage, and Jupiter gives abundance and gives you joy, so it gave her abundance and joy when it came to relationships. Okay. And a marriage. I've seen Jupiter in the 7th house equate to a marriage a lot of times. Maybe not 100%, but this is a very common transit for a marriage or an engagement or something like that. And Jupiter was in Virgo. Jupiter was at 5 degrees Virgo. Okay, yeah. So, Virgo is her 8th house. The 8th house, it's the next step, like merging lives together, merging souls, merging bodies, merging bank accounts, your assets being combined and becoming one, like for real with someone. So I've seen Jupiter in the 8th house also equate to marriage for people. So, and also Saturn was in Aquarius at that time. So Saturn was in Selena's 1st house. Now, like I told you guys earlier, Saturn is like, Saturn can equal your father figures, your pops. If your pops is still around, or some sort of strict disciplinarian, your boss, or somebody in your life. So when Saturn is in one of your signs, you feel like you're being bossed around all the time. And you want to, and she was going through, what's called a Saturn square, okay? Because her Saturn is in Taurus, and a sign that squares it, that challenges Taurus, is Aquarius. So that means her Saturn and transiting Saturn were butting heads with each other, meaning she wanted to be, Saturn in your sign can also make you yourself want to be more on your own. It can bring you life events that bring more maturity, okay? And she wanted to be on her own, just free from any other people bossing her around, because she wanted to be her own boss of her own life. So Saturn in Aquarius definitely shows that, that was a time to where she said, you know what, I'm tired of my dad and his shit, when it comes to our relationship. Let's just elope, because I just want to be a full on grown ass woman in love, married, like settled down. Saturn is an anchor, so it anchors you down in life, and maturity. So she was like, let's elope, because then my dad can't tell us shit, man. He can't tell us what to do. He can't tell me what to do if I'm married. So that's why, for her, all of this, the marriage, she decided to elope. And also I noticed that they have significant events that happen around the same day. They got married April 2nd, and there was a new moon in Aries. Like, the sun and moon were both in Aries at that time. So there was a new moon. Whenever there's a new moon or a full moon, whether or not they're eclipses or just the regular ones that happen every year, they can bring about significant life events. So a new moon in her sign was definitely like a time of independence and freedom, And also this new moon was on her Chiron. Chiron can rule like where a lot of your deep-rooted pain is at in life, which everybody has. She has Chiron in the same sign as her natal sun. The sun rules your pops. Okay, so it's far away from the sun, but still it's in the same sign, so it does affect her. Like, her father affected her deeply to where it caused her a lot of pain. So, a new moon on your Chiron is like, yo, I want to be released from this pain that my father inflicts upon me, and me being independent and being on my own, having my own identity. So that new moon, the day of, their marriage, or it was right around the day of their marriage, definitely signified her just saying, you know what, let's just do it. A new moon brings that, okay? And then for Chris, let's see. For Chris, where was this at? Well, Chris also has Chiron in Aries. So the new moon was on his as well, which was, releasing him from the pain of Abraham being so like, what's it called? Commanding and protective and like controlling over, his life too, because he wanted to be with Selena, you know what I mean? So Chris was also going through a Saturn square. He also has Saturn in Taurus in his birth chart. So Saturn in Aquarius was challenging him too, to like step up and become a man and be a married man and, live more, be adulting more, you know what I mean? But the challenge came from another Saturnian figure, which was a father figure, Selena's father. So he was challenging him as well. They were butting heads as men, as grown men. Like, he's like, yo, I'm a grown man now. This is my wife, and he's like, but I'm her father. So you see, that's what a Saturn square can bring. And then for him, Saturn was also in the opposite sign of his natal sun. The sun is you, and Saturn in the 7th house from the sun can also indicate a marriage, someone being anchored and tied down, when it comes to a relationship, a very serious, heavy relationship. Saturn in the 7th is also a very common marriage transit. Jupiter in the 7th, Saturn in the 7th can definitely signify those times. And then also Jupiter was in Virgo, transiting probably somewhere near his moon. I don't know his moon degree because I don't have his birth time, but it was very close to his moon. So, you know, stuff was happening on Selena's moon and on his moon. So that's where they're like, let's get married. And then they ended up moving in together. Moon rules where you live, okay, and who you live with. If you're shacked up with somebody, look at transits to your moon to see when that may happen. And then the north and south nodes, the south node and the eclipses were likely happening on his Venus during that time. And once again, Venus is love and relationships and stuff, okay? And the north node was coming in contact with his Juno, which rules, you know, it can signify like marriage and partnership stuff too. And also Venus was in Pisces during that time. So Venus was, Venus was at 24 Pisces, yeah, and his north node is 21 Pisces. So it was Selena's Venus return, and that's why she was like, I'm so in love and I just want to do this. And it was on his north node, which is destiny, karma, fate, you know? So that's also why they just eloped the day that they did. The day that they did, Lord have mercy, can I talk? That's why they did what they did the day that they did it, okay? So I just wanted to show that. Now, here's the sad part, okay? So the day that Selena passed, I don't want to get too deep into it because I probably will get very emotional, but so astrology is very telling with stuff like that. I don't want to tell too much about it because I don't want people to get scared and start looking at their charts or the charts of their loved ones and be like, oh my God, this means we're going to die, and start, you know, looking at like people's deaths and stuff. But I will tell you that Selena, there were eclipses that were happening in Taurus and Scorpio when she, you know, around the time that she passed away. There was an eclipse, I think, at 26 degrees of Taurus and Scorpio right here on this axis, like almost exactly, which is why she was catapulted into so much fame. You know, the months before she passed, she won all these awards. She started getting all this recognition. She was working very hard on the crossover album, just really, really motivated. And the boutiques and all that stuff, like super motivated to do all of that, right? But then, you know, at the bottom of her chart was like emotional stuff and family stuff that was kind of suffering at the same time or going through a lot of big changes. Sometimes transits to your fourth house, especially eclipses or ones that are very exact, they say that the fourth house can show the end of life. Sometimes it can, okay? Not 100% of the time, so don't, you know what I'm saying? Please, people, don't go thinking this and looking up your stuff and like, oh my God, am I going to die when there's an eclipse here? Not for everyone. There's got to be a lot of other math, astrological math that adds up at the same time as this, not just that alone. But check this out. Mars, which can rule conflict, war, aggression, was in Leo. It was at 13 degrees of Leo. Selena's descendant, which can rule other people, not just marriage, but just dealings with others, 13 degrees of Leo. Okay, so that shows her conflict with the troll. I'm not going to say her name because we know what it is, and my homegirl Apollonia so affectionately calls her Quasimodo because she's an ugly motherfucker. Like, I don't like to talk about people's looks and be mean, but no, that bitch deserves to be called an ugly motherfucker. Okay. So, and by the way, my homegirl Apollonia, she is doing a video on the whole situation with what went down. Why was that troll so obsessed with Selena? Why she did what she did? And, you know, does her story that she tries to present about it being an accident, does it line up astrologically? Astrology will tell all, you guys, okay? It'll tell if people are lying about shit. yo, it'll point it all out. So I will leave the links to my homegirl Apollonia's video, and so that way you guys can check that part of it out if you're interested. I'm just trying to focus on the love, but just showing, it was all very fated, the day that Selena left. Unfortunately, her beef with that troll is shown right here also with Chiron, which I said earlier, it equals like where you can have your deepest pain and wounds happen to you. It was in Virgo, which is her 8th house. The 8th house can also show dealings with money, financial dealings with other people. So if you have a business partnership with someone, the money that's involved with that business partnership is shown by the 8th house. Okay, so whatever sign that the 8th house is, if there's planets transiting it, it can activate either some good or bad things with that business partnership. But Chiron is not that great of a transit to have to this house, because it can mean that there's issues. Someone is hurting you, wounding you when it comes to your money, your partnership with them, with money. So that's definitely a known fact, okay? And also there was a new moon. There was a new moon in Aries on her Chiron, which rules the same thing. On her natal Chiron in her chart, a new moon on it, which opened up some sort of wound, regarding someone in her life hurting her, unfortunately. So yeah, I don't want to dive too deep into it. Like I said, my homegirl's going to get into it. She'll give you all the details. Probably some of the same details and then some, okay? But for Chris, man, I just feel like real bad for the dude. Yeah, the day that Selena left, there was a new moon on his Chiron in Aries as well, okay? There was a new moon. It was actually the night before, the 30th, but she did meet with the troll on the 30th, didn't get all the paperwork. She had that fake rape allegation thing, bullshitting around, dragging Selena to the hospital with her for nothing, That was the 30th. That night, there was that new moon sitting right here. The next day, the new moon energy was still present, and unfortunately, it didn't bring that great of an event, you know what I mean? For Chris, Saturn was transiting near his north node, which is fate, karma, destiny. So Saturn can bring hard times. And Mars and Leo, Chris is also a Leo sun. So Mars was approaching the sun, meaning there was some sort of conflict in his life that was agitating, like in the fucking worst way, man. And then, Chiron and Virgo, it was on his south node. South node is the root of your soul and your past life. So it was exactly lined up, pretty much exactly lined up with his south node, meaning he had, a fated meeting with Selena when there was activity on this, before that opened up the portal to the past, to come back again, and they found each other again. And the way that they talked about each other was so beautiful. They were always saying, we found each other. We can't believe we found each other. We're so happy we found each other. That means their souls already knew each other before. They could have been married in a past life, or they knew each other as souls before. And it's like, oh my God, we found each other again. When you meet north and south node people, it really does feel like that. It feels like a reunion of souls. And, when both people finally recognize it, you do get emotional like that. Like, oh, wow, I can't believe I found you. Like, we're so lucky, that we found each other. And there is a lot of blissful moments and stuff. It is a very beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful feeling. But yeah, so Saturn was on his north node, which is this lifetime destiny. Chiron was on his south node, which is past life. So unfortunately, his the love of his life, she left, and it wounded him deeply, like very deeply. It shows right here, okay? It was very hard for him. I said that Chris gives me some sort of Taurus-y type of vibes. And, Taurus people connect through the 5 senses. Even in love, they remember how someone smells, how their skin feels. They remember little details about a person, their physical form, and they get attached to that. And Chris said that, you know, after Selena passed, some of her clothes still smelled like her and her perfume, and he put them in a bag and, you know, tied it up so that that smell could stay there forever. And he would sometimes open it and just to connect with her again with her scent. And I know that sounds weird to some people, but for Taurus types, we remember people like that. If someone that we love wore a certain like perfume, cologne, shampoo, aftershave, something, like that smell can take you back to feelings, you know, and experiences and memories of being with that person. Like all those things flood your mind, and you really feel like you're there with them. So I really feel for the dude, man. Like that book, of course, I cried. Of course, you know, my Pisces moon ass had to cry several times reading that book. But they were really, really connected at the soul, pretty much is my point. Her coming into his life, them coming into each other's lives, definitely fated events. And her leaving his life is fated too. And, you know, Chris has remarried since then. He's dated since then. He's even had kids. But I could tell you one thing. I don't know any of those ladies' charts, but if they didn't have those exact conjunctions of the north and south nodes, the vertex, and all that stuff that he and Selena had, if they didn't meet during eclipses that opened up all of that and, you know, brought each other into to their lives, and plus had, you know, that stuff in their charts conjoining each other, I'm sure he loved those ladies. I'm sure that they were meant to meet and stuff. But that deep type of love you feel with somebody that your souls already knew each other. You were already together before in other lifetimes, and you're excited to find each other again. If they didn't have that stuff, that explains why he could probably never love any of them like he loved Selena. Like that was a real magical experience. When you have that soulful thing with someone, the north and south node stuff can do that. Neptune stuff can do that too. And Selena's Venus was an aspect to his Neptune, so there was a lot of magic between them. And you could see in pictures like how his eyes were lit up because of her smile. She opened him up a lot, you know. So some people kind of have dissed on the fact that Selena was so fiery and outgoing and, you know, initiating things, and he just kind of went along with stuff. But that worked for them. And another reason why it worked for them is Chris's sun is in Selena's 7th house. The 7th house is, yes, marriage and relationships and stuff, but it's compromising. When you meet someone whose sun, moon, and all this stuff fall in your 7th house, you guys, there's a mutual exchange of the willingness to compromise. That's why Selena would do some crazy shit, man. She would come home with all these pets. It's like, you know, he would be surprised. It's like one day he comes home and there's another pet, there's a new dog, there's there's an aquarium, there's fish, there's, you know, there's all these animals. And she said, I want all these animals. And he wasn't necessarily like as big of an animal person as her, but he was like, whatever you want to do, I'm down. Whatever you want, I will support you. So when you have this 7th house, you know, someone's stuff falls in your 7th house, normally, maybe with other people, you might butt heads when you don't have this. But when you have this, you're like, okay, whatever you like, you know, you're willing to bend and to sacrifice your own happiness sometimes. Sometimes this makes a relationship a little too compromising to where they can sacrifice their true selves so much that they can't even be themselves. They're not authentically themselves, and they feel like the other person, like you become like their personality over your own. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it's not a good thing, but they had so many other like good points in their synastry that really brought out some magic, that it was cool, you know. She was supportive of him too. Now, she didn't want him touring on the road by himself, but that was that Venus-Pluto thing I told you about. Like, they don't, Venus and Pluto doesn't play around. 2nd house energy, Taurus energy, Scorpio energy, Pluto does not play. It's very possessive. But she was still supportive of his dreams, you know, a lot. Okay. And this is also why Selena got what she wanted with him. You know, like he was willing to compromise because all his stuff landed in her 7th house. So he was more of the one that was willing, but she also gave that to him too, that support. So I went in, you guys. I'm sure there's a lot more I can say. There's a lot more that I can show you, but I don't want to make this too long and boring. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that are tuning in that have no, like, not one clue about what the hell I'm talking about here. But for, those people, astrology is dope and it tells a lot. Soulmates are real. Those magical connections with people are real. Sometimes they don't always end up being easy or end up being forever, but that experience is very once in a lifetime, and you can have it with the same souls over and over again in other lifetimes. I truly believe that. I've been shown that. I've experienced it myself, and I've seen it a lot. And they're one of these cases. And to my, fellow astrology nerds, if you see anything that I didn't really touch on, definitely leave it in the comments. And I hope that you guys learned something and got something out of this. But yeah, astrology's real. Your soul definitely overpowers your physical body a lot of times. And when meeting other souls, and it doesn't matter the outer circumstances, if you meet someone and your souls are reaching for each other, they'll fight and find a way to come together, whether it's through a controlling pops, an existing relationship, unfortunately, a lot of times, or some other circumstances that try to keep you apart. You're like magnets to each other. Your souls recognize each other. You feel that sense of you belong together. It's inevitable, like it's inescapable. Even if there's things that block you and keep you apart, you guys are on each other's minds all the time. You'll see signs, you'll see symbols, synchronicities, things that remind you of each other. Even if you try to date other people or something, that wasn't the case in their relationship that we know of. But even if you tried, you're still going to be reminded of that person, and nobody else is going to compare. It's difficult. No matter what, man, you're going to be sent reminders that your soul belongs to someone. And if you're trying to escape them, you'll find a way back to each other. It's crazy shit, but it's all real. And Chris and Selena are definitely proof of that. So yeah, you guys, I'm going to stop rambling. I hope you learned something. And also, if you would like me to look at your relationship with another person, I do offer personal readings on my website, and I will link it below. I do take a really deep look at love, the same way I did, Selena and Chris, and I really go in, okay? So hit my website if you would like your own view of your own situation in a relationship. If you have any questions or comments or anything that are respectful, then of course leave them below. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to tune in to my homegirl, the Astrology Lady, to her YouTube channel. Once the link is up for her video, I will post it in here if you want to dive more into, some of the, stuff that happened between Selena and Quasimodo. She's going to go in on that bitch, okay? So thank you guys, and I will see you in my next videos. Peace.